Hello, Booktube. I'm Scott.
I'm here.
We're Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and this is our Aussie April reading vlog. Now, earlier this year, we confessed to a certain book maniac that we don't really like Australian literature. And
we since made a video about it, so you guys are all caught up.
Yeah, it's
the link is in
old
the description.
News. And Sean happened to say that he really liked Aussie literature.
Yes.
And he challenged us to read 4 Australian books for the month of April during the Aussie April Readathon.
Which is like 1 billion, just so you know, Sean.
Yeah. So, we're going to do it.
This is our attempt. Let's
see how badly we hate Australian books. Maybe we'll love Australian books.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's see if Sean's attempt to get us to be more patriotic works. Alright, we'll check in and let you know.
See you soon.
Okay, so I have started my first Aussie April book, and it is Terra Nullius by Clare G. Coleman. I am not enjoying this to begin with. This is all over the place.
But he's wrong. It's so good.
We'll see. I might change my mind. This is about an experience and vlogging it and and having your wife come in and contradict you.
A whole channel.
I can't slowly come to an opinion.
No.
As I sort of explore the ideas I am berated with being wrong. That's our life.
That's your real experience. Let's not hide it.
Okay. Well, I am not enjoying Terra Nullius. I am finding the change of narration is happening too quick, and I am finding these characters, despite being distinct, being quite blendy, and I've not been given enough of a chance to settle in with any of the characters. Also,
definitely after hearing Scott say that, I think I have an advantage by reading it in the physical copy, because it does change perspective very regularly.
Yeah, I will say the audiobook is shit. I think that a single voice narrator has to change their tone when they change points of views.
Yeah,
is really important. But I will say that why would you pick Jack and John as 2 of your main characters? Did I get the names right?
Not really. It's Jackie and Johnny, but
Jackie and Johnny. I'm so out of this novel. Anyway, Nelle loves it, so
I'm really enjoying it. I just got to the midway point for anyone else who's read it.
Finished The Yield by Tara June Winch, and it's another thumbs down. It's a big stinky thumbs down. It's just not for me. It's not for me. I could not get into this. The writing was not mine. It was for somebody else. I don't know. That's 2 fails. I'm currently reading And the Ass Saw the Angel by Nick Cave. That seems to be set in southern USA, and that seems alright. There's definitely good potential there. That might be a good one. We'll have to see how it progresses. And I'm reading that book of poetry that I can't remember the name of, but it's in a different language. But translated into English, the name's in a different language. And I don't really have an opinion on either of those 2 books yet. So we'll see how we go with them. Not a good Aussie April so far. Let's hope it improves.
Terra Nullius, which is the Red Under the Bed book club pick for the month. I don't want to talk about that too much because if you want to read it, you just need to go into that without knowing anything and just pick it up and read it.
Just heard something in the bushes over here. I reckon it's a roo, but I can't see it or get to it. To be honest, some of the roos are a bit freaking massive, so I'm a bit shitting myself. So, alright, it's Saturday morning. I have been reading Nick Cave and The Arse Saw the Angel. And do you ever have like a friendship with somebody and you really want to like them, but at some point you realise that they're an insufferable cunt? That is this novel. It didn't hook me with the storyline. It didn't make me care about the characters. It just like rambled on in that like James Joyce style way, but without being as good as James Joyce, who I don't particularly like, but I appreciate that other people do. Just it was going nowhere. I really wanted to like this, and I got up to about 90 pages, and I started to realize that I was starting to like skim read a little bit, and I realized that was because I didn't like it. And it's really nice writing, but That's why Nick Cave writes songs and not books. So that's a DNF. I also finished the audiobook of No Friend But the Mountain by Behrouz Boochani, which is a fiction, non-fiction, poetry blend of his account of being detained on Manus Island as an asylum seeker. Essentially written what I think really should be called technically fiction, but it is based heavily on his life in Manus, and sometimes he's accounting what's happened to himself as like a memoir, and other times he's actually making things up, because he said he considered changing the names of the people on Manus Island he was with, and changing the identities of them, but he thought that would that would still leave them too open for figuring out who they were, and was not best for their safety. So he made up characters that were based on things that were influenced, based on his own influence. If you don't know anything about Australia's illegal criminal torture of asylum seekers, then it's a good one to pick up. But also, you basically, it's like reading about a concentration camp. Like actually, there is this segregation of an entire group of people and unfair imprisonment and maltreatment for no real reason at all. And what's incredible about this is that he wasn't allowed to have anything that you would need to have to write a book. So he had a contraband phone, and he wrote this entire novel via SMS, which he sent to somebody, and then they've translated it from Farsi, which is the language that Boochani speaks because he's a Kurd, a Iranian Kurd, and he's translated it from Farsi into English. Now, I will give everybody a happy ending story because Behrouz Boochani is like a well-known person, and he has since been settled in New Zealand, and good on New Zealand for having a soul, unlike the insufferable cunt that Scott Morrison and Peter Dutton are. Hello, that was rude. Hello, I have finished my 4th book for Aussie April. It is Nganajungu Yagu.
No.
No.
But I can't imagine you're ever going to get any closer.
No. That means my mother. This is a book of poetry and letters. Charmaine Papertalk Green is an Australian Aborigine in Western Australia. I forget the name of the tribe. She has a bit of a mixed path. She is from the Wajari people and the Badamaya people.
Yeah.
Badamaya people. And she's got, I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. So it's a book of poetry, and it contains letters between Charmaine and her mum. It took me a little while to get into this, and once I got into it, I really thought that this was amazing. For a book about like poetry and letters, it really was like super personal and then super general as well. I really definitely got a sense of the injustices that the Australian Aboriginal people suffer in today's system from the government, and historically with the stolen generation and a lot of what the Western Australian government has done to it. And I thought that it was such a weird and novel way of doing it in this format, but I really liked it. One of the little things that stood out for me is that the Western Australian government had a Department of Fisheries and Aborigines in the 1930s. Yeah, like they combined them to like, we're going to look after fish and
our Indigenous people.
Yeah, like, Yeah, so it just, once it all started to come together as like a sense and a feeling of what it was like to be Aboriginal in today's society and why it doesn't. Yeah, you just like.
Oh, you did just like plonk down, and anyway.
Yeah, it gave me a great sense of what it was like.
Gentle. Go on.
All yours, buddy.
You don't like it? That's all there is. Come on. Fine.
Think. All right, now let's
What? What?
let's wrap up our Aussie April
Disaster.
Because it's Anzac Day, and we could continue reading for 5 more days, or
I
whatever
might,
it is.
but I doubt it.
So I read 5 books. You read 1 book, and there is some debate over this book, isn't there?
I don't think there's debate. I think I got stuff out of it and you didn't.
Yeah. So this book, let's just quickly for the viewers, in case anybody's not sure, this is Terra Nullius by Clare Coleman we're talking about. So I didn't get much out of this book, no, but you did get stuff out of this book. So what did you get out of the book?
I don't know. I found like the first half before the sort of plot twist really confronting. I found it to be really accurate, I guess, and really evocative for me of the suffering that my ancestors caused.
Yeah, completely. I
Aboriginal people in Australia, and that made me have all the feelings, most of which are white guilt, my own stage of sort of like processing my privilege and all that sort of stuff. So like internal to me, but I found it really tough going. And then after the twist and sort of the second half of the book is a little bit more intellectualized, and it wasn't so close to home, and I felt a sort of catharsis. I felt a sort of ability to move on from being in my feelings to being a human being in our present situation, thinking about solutions for the problems rather than necessarily being stuck in that.
Because we can't change the fact that our ancestors invaded Australia.
No, and white guilt is fucking useless. Like, despite the fact that we all go through that process of feeling it, it's fucking useless, and it doesn't get shit done. But I don't know. I felt like this book almost helped me process a little bit, which is, I don't think the intention of it, but definitely something I got out of it. I enjoyed the twist. I enjoyed, like, overall, I got enjoyment from the book. And it made me think about the universality of the experiences of Australian Indigenous people as compared to other colonised peoples around the world.
Yeah.
And it made me think about, it's very Australian. It's like, the way it is written is really very in our landscape.
Things like the reference to the Tasmanians in the novel and how the Tasmanians were
just wiped out.
And that was included in there. Like, there was a lot of historical events like that were just included in the novel. And
so it's sort of rooted in my own knowledge of our history, but also in the landscapes that I'm familiar with, and the weather that I'm familiar with, and like all of those things made it feel very, very specific to Australia. But when they were talking about sort of re-educating Indigenous children in group homes, it made me think about how universal that is to colonized people, and how, like, that has happened in Canada and in the US. It's and missions in various countries in Africa and all that. Like, it's actually really the same format, and that sort of juxtaposition of specific and universal made me have feelings about and thoughts about this as an evolutionary colonization, as an evolutionary result. When you read, what was that book?
Jared Diamond, Guns, Germs and Steels.
And it comes up in Terra Nullius as well. The people who develop in areas where there are other people develop technology faster and are more aggressive because they are surrounded by people, so they're more likely to have conflict. So they need weapons and they need protection and they need those things.
Yeah,
and they're also more likely to go and explore, looking for more space, and then dominate and colonialize. So a lot of that was echoed in a really intellectualized way in Terra Nullius as well, and it made me think about all those things.
Yeah.
And that was interesting.
That was it. I completely understand what you're saying. It was completely in there. I found it, I didn't find it quite as intellectual as you. I found it a bit like it was definitely echoing Australian history, but I thought that made it like so predictable.
I don't think a surprising plot is necessarily an essential part of my enjoyment of the book. Courtney didn't enjoy the writing. I didn't have a problem with it, but again, I was in my feelings for a lot of this, so like that probably forgives a lot of small evils. Do you know what I mean? Like, things that would maybe normally annoy me could have slipped under the radar because I was having feelings. The other thing is, I liked this book, but it wasn't my favourite book in the world. Like, this is not the hill I'm going to friggin' die on as far as arguing with you about who's right and who's wrong. Like, you can just have it. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm the only one who enjoyed it. Everyone else who's read it in the book club has basically said, nah.
Yeah.
So it is quite probable that most of what I got out of it was actually my own stage in processing my own racial guilt.
Yeah, but other people might get that out of it.
Sure.
Is the thing. Yeah, I think that you would have to forgive the writing if you're going to read it, and I think that is
It's also something that I'm quite happy to do if the ideas are interesting to me. Then I will forgive the writing. Sometimes I'll forgive the ideas being shit because the writing's nice. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it is so subjective, isn't it?
I am actually a really easily pleased reader. If you've got something to, you don't have to have all the things. For me, I mean, it's great if you've got all the things. Don't get me wrong; you should be aiming for all the things. But for it, pass fail, it doesn't have to have all the things.
Yeah, writing for me is such a. It can be bad, but once I start to notice that it's bad, and once I start to struggle with it because it's bad, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's really an on-off.
Yeah.
Sort of thing for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think that like writing level can be irritating, and once you've got sand in your johnny, you just have to move on.
Yeah. All right. So ultimately, I don't really recommend this book. You enjoyed it, but it's not the best book you're going to read for the year. No,
and I have other books lined up that I'm more excited about that are Australian that I'm not going to get to read in April, but I'm much more interested to see how The Yield goes, and Dark Emu, and The Swan Book, and just so many others.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, with The Yield, that was the one that I didn't like the writing of myself, and that is, again, it failed the writing test. And I suspect that is going to be a book that I suspect once we have a dozen odd people reading it, we'll have a half a dozen on one side and half a dozen on the other side. Of that one.
Yeah, I'm a bit bummed I'm not going to get to read it this month, because there's going to be a huge discussion about it at the end of the month, I think.
Yeah.
Lots of people picked it up this month.
I think the ideas and themes in that book are really good, but the writing didn't match the idea. The grand scheme of it was let down by the quality of the writing. But also, I'm really quite comfortable to say that wasn't a Scott book. Like the way it was written, like I didn't really gel with Tara June Winch, and I might be the only one out there saying I think it was rubbish. And a kind of that could be the case, because what was actually discussed and the ideas in it were quite
interesting.
If I could have got into it, if I could have cared a bit more about it, I might have had a completely different experience with that novel.
You really should care about it. I mean, from what I gather, it's about preserving a culture that our ancestors destroyed.
Yeah, that's kind of what the theme is, but it's not about. You make it sound like I'm an arse. It's just about getting into the novel and seeing the characters, and I found the characters to be very one-dimensional and a little bit indistinct, and that is never going to make me empathetic towards the characters. So
I'm going because I haven't read it.
yeah, and this is again. I reckon there's a good chance that that's about me. The other 3 books I read, just quickly, I do recommend No Friend But the Mountain by Behrouz Boochani. It's about Manus Island and our prison for refugees and various other things.
Human rights
violations. Yeah, let's just be mean to refugees in order to help them not come here in the future, even though they won't hear about the news. That scheme. And it will cost us more money than resettling them. Yeah. A horrible scheme. Yeah, so that was quite good. That was very interesting because it was prose and poetry and memoir all combined into one book. And the poetry book, which was roughly translates as My Mother, was quite a good little novel. And I DNF'd the Nick Cave book and The Arse or the Angel.
which he's just wrong about.
Yeah, no, just if he wanted to write a really long song, he should have put music to it.
I mean, he probably did.
I mean, that would have, it should have been a CD, not a novel.
I would pay good money for that because I really enjoyed the novel, but I am a bit of a Nick Cave fangirl, and I just think you're wrong. I think the writing is grouse.
The writing is excellent. The fact that he decided to not say much with his excellent words and sentences is a choice that I disagree with. So
You're a choice.
You're a choice. It is probably hard for me to attack it because it might have got good afterwards, but essentially...
I think it is what your shit book, The Wasp Factory, wishes it could be.
Look, by the time I was 100 pages into The Wasp Factory, it was half finished. He'd murdered a few people and it had a plot and a point.
Scott's boring. Fans of the music.
Let's see if we can come up with a description of this book that we agree on. It's dark.
Yeah.
Nick Cave has crafted every sentence to be quite beautiful.
Yes.
It's got a slow plot.
Yeah, I guess.
All the characters are basically horrible.
Except one.
That I'd only just met.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it does a little bit sound like a Marmite book from that description, doesn't it?
Yeah, I definitely think if you like a slow burn and writing quality is good, is important to you. But I loved it. Like, I really loved it.
That southern drawl, to write a slow novel in a southern drawl, which is the slowest accent in the world. It's just, like, I feel like I needed to take my time reading it to get the accent. And then I was like, hurry up, get to the point already. And just emphasized the issue that I had with it. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe.
Yeah. But I definitely think that's a Marmite one. Alright, well that's the end of our Aussie April vlog. Alright, bye.
Bye.